I'm burning ADM right now, as you can see my shadow. Oh my gosh! Are you kidding me with the ending of this book? Marsh blew my mind. In fact, I'm going to embarrass myself a little bit. I was reading in bed last night, and when I finished this, and I had just finished I had just turned the page for when there was like one Inquisitor who popped up. And then all of a sudden, it went to the other Inquisitor and pulled out a thing, and then it's back. And the Inquisitor dropped dead. And then my eyes darted to the middle of the page, and it said, Kelsier? Not Kelsier. Marsh. And I went, and my jaw dropped and just hung there for like a literal minute. And I was like, in my head, I was like, hold on, let me get a quick picture of me just in this pose. So I held the pose. It's hard to see. That was me reading this book. Can't see glare. There we go. In my bed, just totally shocked of the Marsh thing. I think I said a few videos ago, or maybe even the last video, I think when Marsh died, I think I said that Marsh is for sure the only one that's dead in my head. And holy smokes, they freaking Brandon Sanderson. Also, if you hear some chewing, my dog is just gnawing on a little bone right here. He's pretty cute. Little West Cam right here. Oh no. What the heck happened? That was weird. There he is. Anyway, that was completely shocking for me. I was going wild. Also, alternatively, if you guys want, we're going to do some live reads for the next one. So essentially what we're doing in the Discord right now is people are coming up with the top 5 chapters of, I don't think you can see it. Oh yeah, you can see it at the top. The Well of Ascension and the Hero of Ages. Boom, boom. 2 books are right there. Wow, it's hard to do this in reverse. Right there. And people in the Discord are coming up with the top 5 chapters of those, and I'm going to live read those. I don't know if I'm going to sit here and just read it. We're going to figure it out. I don't know if I'm going to listen to it while I read, or if I'm going to sit here and read it and just, it'd be a boring stream, but it'll be just me reading, and like, if I come to a crazy part, me just looking up at the camera and talking to the camera. Or if it might be me reading out loud. I kind of want to do that because John Voth did that with Harry Potter, and people went nuts over that, and they loved it because his reading was really good. I'm not a great reader, but I love that kind of stuff, so I think it'd be fun. I'll like come up with voices for the characters. So that's the plan for the next book, but also a plug for the Discord, because in this, when we came, especially the last part, I was giving my like live as it was happening thoughts on the things. So there's a lot of all capitalization in the Discord from me, of going, Marsh, of going, no, and all sorts of other things. So if you want to jump in our Discord, I always try to leave a link in the description, but sometimes the link expires. I always try to leave an unexpired link, but sometimes it still expires for some reason. Anyway, golly, the end of this book was fantastic. I was very into it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the end of this book. I'm going to do a whole nother video of it's like a book review where I talk about just very quickly some general thoughts about the book and everything like that. But I was blown away by the ending of this book. It was fantastic. It was so good. I had so many different theories about people who were doing different things, like that one Inquisitor, because that one Inquisitor wasn't going to. There was like one Inquisitor that got left back, or not that got left back, that didn't go ahead and like follow the Lord Ruler's command, and I thought that was Reen for a second. So I can't wait to talk about all this kind of stuff. But wow, that ending totally took me by surprise. My brother listens to this on his way to work, and he is in The Way of Kings right now. I think he's in like the last book of that series, and he talks about how good it is, and he's like, he was so excited for me reading this. And when I was talking to him, I just kept like giving him my theories and like telling him all the things that I thought. And I remember the same thing I said to you guys. I was like, when I was in my, I was in the car with him, and I was like, we were just getting out, and he was asking me, he's like, what are your theories on the end of the book? What do you think is going to happen? And I was like, I think, the 11th medal is a resurrection medal, which is, I kept saying, which I was wrong about. Maybe it is. I think there's more elementic powers than the 8, for sure. Or even than the 12. I feel like there's 16 elementic powers. That's my guess right now. Or maybe even more. Maybe every metal flares something. You can burn every kind of metal. I said that. I said the people that have died, I said the only person that I think is really dead is Marsh. I said, I think Renault's still alive, and part of me thinks Kelsier is still alive. Kelsier seems to be confirmed dead right now. The hero going out, the tutor going out and dying. Tragic. And I really loved him as a character. But yeah, that was sad. He seems like he's dead. Also, my dog seems like he's going to rile up and get ready to play. So I might have to play tug of war with him while I'm doing this video. But yeah, and I was talking to him about all that, and he was just like, he's not like in the communities of like Brandon Sanderson. He just reads them as like, good books. But he doesn't know like the read and find out. But he was essentially giving me that face. He's like, he's like keep me updated. And so when I was texting him last night about my reading, I just texted Marsh in all caps. Are you freaking kidding me? And he's like, isn't it such a good twist? But he says it twists and turns so much, and you just don't expect it. And that was something I did not expect. I did not expect the Marsh thing at the end. That blew me out of the water. Generally, I feel like I'm decent. Maybe not decent. Actually, maybe I take that back totally. I'm not great at predicting the end of books. Sometimes I am. This one I thought I felt like I had a decent grasp on. Even as I was going through the last part, I had different parts where I was like, oh, I think this is going to happen. I think he's going to twist it in this way. But the Marsh thing was so excellent because I guess him in that room was his process of becoming an Inquisitor. That's my guess. I don't know if we know that for sure because Marsh said something like he doesn't really want to talk about the process of becoming an Inquisitor because it was like gruesome. But all that blood, maybe that was like, he spills all that blood in order to become an Inquisitor. That, though, just took me by surprise. And I am so glad that he's alive because I loved him. He was one of my favorite characters in the entire series so far. I think he's great. So I'm pumped that he's back. There's a few things that I like, a few things that I'm like, they got to figure things out quick. I don't love that Elend is in charge. I think he's too young. I don't think he has enough wisdom. I don't know who else you'd put in charge. Honestly, I think Marsh should be in charge. My dog just took his bed into the other room. Like he's being like naughty. I kind of think Marsh should be in charge. He seems like the most level-headed out of everyone. Doxson too, almost. I kind of love Doxson. But gosh, the ending of this book was just fantastic. I'm just gonna keep saying that. Just so many good twists and turns, and so many things that I just did not expect. And the Sanderland that everyone talks about is, it was so fun. And again, this was one of the first books in a really long time that I was reading, and I was like, I was tossed between two things. I did not want to put it down. I wanted to keep reading, but I also wanted to delay the end of this reading because I enjoyed it so much, and I wanted to draw out my enjoyment. So it's like the struggle between delayed gratification and instant gratification. And so I read, I think there's, how many chapters? 5 chapters in part? Let me count real quick. 35, 36, maybe 4, 37, 38. Oh man, I have a note right there. That's something crazy. 38. So there's 4 chapters in this. I read the first 2 nights ago. Like, what is it? Sunday night I read the first 2? Or no, Saturday night I read the first 2. No. Friday night I read the first 2, I think. I'm all over the place. And then I was like, I don't want to put it down. I want to finish this so bad. I was like, I have to. But in my head, I was like, I'm going to get more enjoyment out of this the longer I drag it on. And I'm going to be able to think through like theories and process things. I had a bunch of theories in that intermediate stage that I want to talk about. Because it was a great, like, this is good too. And a lot of you told me this, but like, it's a closed book in that it wraps up the story so well. It's not like you have to finish the next book in order to get the rest of the story. Like you obviously kind of do, because there's like so many questions unanswered and there's so many things you want to know. But like, he closed this book so well, but left things open so well as well. Like, if you don't want to read the epilogue, you could finish this book, just be totally happy. But the epilogue opens up so many other questions, so many other things that are bothering Vin, and so many other things that are bothering Marsh, and so many things that I want to know. Oh my gosh, it was just so excellent. It was so fun. Like, I haven't had this much fun reading a book in a really long time. So good. So let's jump into it. I'm just gonna keep gushing over this because I really enjoyed it. I really loved it. Chapter 35. I don't have summaries for any of these chapters because I was too into it to even go back and write summaries. But everything just it just goes from 0 to 100 in these chapters. Oh man, got so hyped for some of this stuff. Okay. The intros were also interesting as well. I know what will happen if I make the wrong choice. I must be strong. I must not take the power for myself, for I've seen what will happen if I do. Okay, so this is her thought. Why does it matter anymore, she thought, staring upward. Why does anything matter? What was it you said to me, Kelsier, that I never really understood? That I still needed to learn about friendship? What about you? You didn't even fight. That was a question that was in my head for so long. And my brother asked me that question. Because I was thinking about that and I was like talking about it and I was like, it bothered me how fast Kelsier went. I was like, there was just no fight. And I told him, I was like, I am thinking through, and I've been trying to think through this idea of why he just didn't fight back. And my brother looks at me and he goes, why? Why didn't he fight back? And I gave him the answer, which I think is the right answer. I think it was I think it was the answer. I don't know. We don't know. Maybe there's going to be more that's going to be revealed. And he's like, leading me on like a little rabbit trail, but it was because of the idea of hope and that religion that he was talking about. Which was a beautiful idea. Like I forgot what the religion was that Sazid was telling him about. But that idea that these people were so strong that they didn't even need a living leader. Sometimes like a dead leader, not suffice, but like even went far beyond sufficing. It was the impetus that they needed to like memorialize someone. And so Kelsier had massive flaws, but weirdly he knew how like government overthrows work. And that if he can appear like this Jesus Christ character and then die, and then none of these Ska know his real flaws, and then he killed an inquisitor with him and essentially showed them how to kill an inquisitor, then this guy is going to be memorialized and people aren't going to see the wrong that he's done, the wrong that he did. So that's exactly what he did. And these people loved him for it and they're worshiping him for it. And it's like the hope, this pure hope, it doesn't die. And it was just it's like frustrating because I still wanted to be alive. I still wanted to train Vin. Vin seems almost more powerful than him now. I will say the person that I actually trust. Well, let's talk about trust for a second. I was all over the place with this book, as all you guys know. In the last part, I was even more all over the place. There was a time when I was early on in this book that I thought, okay, Vin is going to betray everyone. Not betray everyone, but she's going to go over the dark side, and the book's going to end with her being on the dark side, and Lord Ruler like takes control of her and like shows her something. Like maybe the guy who's her father, they're going to like team up, and like Vin's going to be like, oh, like fall to the Emperor, like Luke Skywalker falling to the Empire. Totally rewritten story. That would be so interesting. So that one of the chapters I was like, she's definitely going to fall. Another chapter I was thinking which was devastating because he's my favorite, is Sazid is actually going to fall. I thought Sazid for a second there was going to see a Terraceman and see someone of his same another ferrochemist, and he was going to look at him and be like, I have to keep him alive. There were a few lines where I was dreading it because I felt like I saw it coming, and I was like, if Sazid betrays everyone, I will be devastated because he was a person I trusted the most, and I'm like, a writer would be brilliant to do that. There was also a section where I didn't trust that guard, obviously that guard that came back and like kind of, who was it? Vin went and like stopped the guards, told them to go. They changed sides. I thought he was going to come back and betray her. So I was nervous of that. And then all of a sudden, I thought Marsh was going to do something. I didn't actually think Marsh was going to do this, but when I was looking back on it, I was like, Marsh could have done this, where he essentially kills Vin and Sazid and then takes power for himself. He didn't seem power hungry though, which is what I liked about him so much. He just seemed like he wanted to, I don't know what he wanted. Peace? Marsh is my favorite character though, I think. I have a lot of favorite characters. Oh gosh, so good. It says, "Come," said a ska man who stood at the front of his group. "Fear not the mists." Didn't the survivor name himself Lord of the Mists? Did he not say that we have nothing to fear from them? Indeed, they will protect us, give us safety, give us power. The mists give people power. I don't know how. I don't know why. I don't know if the mists are... I just pieced something together. The mists seem to follow the Lord Ruler. Or mists seem to emanate from him? Or not the Lord Ruler, the Hero of Ages. So maybe... I don't know what he is. I don't think he's a Kandra. Maybe he is an Allomancer. Maybe he's not any of those things. He just seems like a normal guy, to be honest, compared to for the that we get from the logs. But if the mist is like following him, like the same way that it's doing for Vin, maybe he's like the first Allomancer, and he doesn't really know what he is, and he's like trying to figure that out. But the mist following these people, like the mist giving these people power in some way, definitely seems more legitimate now. And I guess concrete than it does just this like urban legend out there. It seems like there is actually some efficacy behind the mist giving these people power. And I don't know what that is yet, but I think it's going to be interesting to see. Like the mist seems to play a much more significant role than I even remembered or than I even thought. Because the mist, the Kandra is essentially like a mist wraith. They were talking about that. And then the mist seems to follow these people. It seems to like swirl around Vin and like, you know, I don't know, give her powers or like is attracted to her in some way. I don't know. Maybe the mist is the deepness. I don't think it is, but that's what I don't know. I want to know what the deepness is. I have so many questions in my head, but it's again, this book was so nice because it answered so many of my questions, but it also opened up a whole nother worm. And I'm like, desperate to get to the next book to figure out some more of to get answers or like even just to continue this story. I was simultaneously happy to be done because it was such a good story and really sad because I didn't want to leave the world. But I get 2 more books and then the whole Way of the Kings. I'm so pumped for those. But this is what we have. When they all discovered, I loved it. Bree shook his head. I don't think they had it in them. Too bad it's such a small... What's that? Dox asked. Vin turned, frowning. There was a pocket of light in the distance, like torches lit in the mist. Another one appeared to the east, near the Ska slum. A third appeared, then a fourth. In a matter of moments, it seemed like the entire city was glowing. You insane genius, Doxon whispered. What? Clubs asked. We missed it, Dox said. The Adium, the army, the nobility, that wasn't the job Kelsier was planning. This was his job. Our crew was never supposed to topple the final empire. We were too small. An entire city population, however. You're saying he did this on purpose? Breeze asked. He always asked me the same question, Sazid said from behind. He always asked what gave religion so much power. Each time I answered him the same. Sazid looked at him, cocking his head. I told him that it was because their believers had something they felt passionate about. Something or someone. Because why not? But why not tell us? Because he knew, Doc said. He knew something we would never agree to. He knew that he would have to die. Kelsier, what a hero. You can call him the hero of ages, I guess. So good. Why gather an army then, Ham said. Was it just a front too? I guess, Vin said. Wrong, a voice said, echoing through the cavernous warehouse. There was so much more to it than that. The crew jumped and Vin flared her metals until she recognized the voice. Renault. Oh, so good. That was like a horn-blowing moment where you're like, Renault, he's back. Knew that, though. Knew that he wasn't going to be dead. That little head nod between both of them was just a clear indication to me that something was going on. Oh, gosh. It was so fun. These chapters were so fun. I loved them. And then this was the moment I kind of realized that he actually is dead. His note was really beautiful. That was the moment. I think that's everything. It was a fun job, wasn't it? When you remember me, please remember that. Remember to smile. Now move quickly. May you rule in wisdom. That hurt me because that simultaneously confirmed that he was dead. And I also had a wild theory that I threw out on our Discord that this is dumb. I was kind of joking about this, but I thought that there was going to be something between something for the Inquisitors always smiling and Kelsier always smiling. That was going to be like a key to this whole thing. Like Vin needed to smile in order to eradicate the Dark Lord, the Lord Ruler's presence. I was like, that could be kind of it. That'd be so funny though. And then his little letter to Vin was devastating. I was absolutely crushed. Vin, it read, your original duty tonight was going to be to assassinate the high noblemen remaining in the city. But well, you convinced me that maybe they should live. I can never figure out how this blasted metal was supposed to work. It's safe to burn, it won't kill you. But it doesn't appear to do anything useful. If you're reading this, then I failed to figure out how to use it when I faced the Lord Ruler. I don't think it matters. The people need something to believe in, and this was the only way to give it to them. Please don't be angry at me for abandoning you. I was given an extension on life. I should have died in Mare's place years ago. I was ready for this. The others will need you. You're their Mistborn now. You'll have to protect them in the months to come. The nobility will send assassins against our fledgling kingdom's rulers. Farewell. I'll tell Mare about you. She always wanted a daughter. That's so devastating. Oh, that is so sad to me. I kind of wish Kelsier and Mare. I wish Mare was still alive. That'd be great. I want to meet her. She seems like a great character. But I kind of wish that Kelsier and Mare were still alive. I feel like they're definitely not, though. And the weird thing about... so this is also weird to me, and we'll talk about this in a bit. Maybe... Well, I was talking about it now. The whole Renault thing is weird. So he takes on the bones of Kelsier and essentially becomes Kelsier for a night. Was he doing it essentially just to like show the Ska that he was resurrected? Like it was like a fake resurrection to like stage this thing? Because then the Kandra, they said the Kandra essentially gave up the bones of Kelsier. Maybe he did that so they can like bury him in peace or something like that. But that was a weird section. Like, because we didn't really get the perspective of Renault and that whole thing. We got Vin's perspective pretty much through the rest of this section. So I would love to know what happened with the whole Renault thing. Did he appear to the Ska? Like in that one moment when the Lord Ruler is looking out of the window when he's about to get stabbed and all the people are like chanting. Were they chanting because of Kelsier or because it was the Renault Kelsier person was like standing among them? I think that's probably what it was, but I might have missed it because I was reading the section and it was like my eyes couldn't read fast enough, but I had to keep going back because I kept missing things. It was like fun reading. Okay, but this is a good ending right here too. Where are you going? Sazid asked behind her. Vin turned in the doorway, mist curling around her. Mist curling around her? Within the palace complex, there is a chamber protected by soldiers and inquisitors. Kelsier tried to get into it twice. She turned back toward the dark mists. Tonight, I'm going to find out what's inside. My note there is, let's go! I was so hyped to see what she was going to find in there. And it was just a disappointment. It was like a study that this ferrochemist, this terraceman, just stores up power. So I was almost... It was brilliant because it was like, you know, this room has no real power, but I always want to find like, you know, something cool in there. But it just made sense. I feel like I should have seen that coming before. And if my guesses were right with Rashek, which I was pumped about. I was so happy that Rashek was the Lord Ruler because I had predicted that. And that was just fun to see that actually happening. I should have realized too that that room would have just been nothing and that he was just storing up his powers. He would just be weak for like a few hours at a time, and then he would just store up his powers and then, come back in full force. But him being both an allomancer and a feruchemist is really interesting. And what says he talks about that? I need to like reread that a few times over to actually get what he's talking about, because it's like you're burning your own metals that you're storing up. It's really fascinating. But chapter 36, they keep going. Vin essentially goes and she gets captured. This was an interesting section. So this is something that I just wrote my note right next to it is how. Vin goes, when she sees one of the guards, it says one of the guards lowered a spear at her and Vin stopped right in front of him. I know you, she said softly. You endured the mills, the mines, and the forges. You knew that someday they would kill you and leave your families to starve. So you went to the Lord Ruler, guilty but determined, and joined his guard. How does she know that? Is this like one of those generic things? Is she just saying this because like that's what all of these guards do? Like they essentially abandon their post and like do the same thing? But is she being specific here? And how does she actually know this? To me, this seemed like another allomantic power. Maybe I'm reading too much into that, but I really want to know. The allomantic powers come in groups of 4. And I really want to know what the next 4 are, what like 8 to 12 are. We know what 2 of them are. Or no, 3 of them actually. Gold, Adium, the 11th metal, which I don't know if we know what the 11th metal, what kind of metal it is. But was it interesting gold in that metal? Gold lets you see, gold is like a version of yourself. For a little while, I thought the 11th metal, because it showed, didn't it show like the Vin's father next to her or something like that? Maybe I misread that because I was trying to read it fast. When we come to that, I'll find it and we'll go through it. Maybe I'm just mistaking it. But it says his push ripped the unattached rings free from the hafts, shooting the bits of metal backward. The arrowheads themselves, however, continued forward, no longer pushed from behind, but still carried by a deadly momentum. The Inquisitor opened his mouth in surprise as 24 arrowheads struck him. Several punched completely through his flesh, continuing to snap against the stone wall behind him. Several others struck his companion's leg. The lead Inquisitor jerked, spasming as he collapsed. The other growled, staying on his feet, but wobbling a bit on the weakened leg. Vin dashed forward, flaring pewter. The remaining Inquisitor moved to block her, but she reached inside her cloak and threw out a large handful of pewter dust. Vin is just smart. She's like becoming a very smart fighter. She's not like the strongest fighter, but I love that she's just smart. She knows what she's doing. I love how she like darts and weaves in these places. She breaks off these arrow tips, and then when she pushes them, the metal falls off, but then the shafts still go and pierce this person. So fascinating, so good. I knew for sure, like in my head before it was Rashek, I knew it was Rashek because it said this. What is this? The old man demanded, standing. I'm sorry, Lord Ruler, the Inquisitor said deferentially. Lord Ruler, but I saw him. He was a young man. Killer, the old man said, waving his hand. My lord, the Inquisitor said. This child is of special interest. Might I keep her for a time? And they talk about the canon of orthodoxy, all that kind of stuff with the obligators. That's when, like, to me, that was like for sure confirmed that he was a feruchemist, or else it was either a feruchemist or something else that we just didn't know yet. And I think if it was something else that we didn't know, I think that would have been less interesting than him being a feruchemist. But this was the metal. Vin struggled in frustration, her heart sinking. And then she saw him, another man, standing right beside the Lord Ruler, where he had come from. She hadn't seen him enter. He had a full beard and wore a thick woolen outfit with a fur-lined cloak. It wasn't rich clothing, but it was well constructed. He stood quietly, seeming content. He smiled happy. Vin cocked her head. There was something familiar about the man. His features looked very similar to those of the man who had killed Kelsier. However, this man was older and more alive. Vin turned to the side. There was another unfamiliar man beside her. A young nobleman, He was a merchant from the looks of his suit, and quite a wealthy one at that. That is throwing me off so much. I thought at first this shows your lineage. I was like, maybe this is Vin's real father. But I don't know what that is. Because it seemed to be Rashek. It's not Rashek, because Vin Vin thinks this, and this is where it goes wrong for her. She thinks that this is going to be like the previous version of you. And it kind of is, because this is when Vin realized that he was Rashek when she looks at this thing. But also, why is there a man? If this is showing your previous self, why is it a man next to her? I thought for sure it was like just a version of her father, but that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, what is going on there? The thing that I want to pick up the next book right now and just start blazing through it so I can learn more about this. I have to say, one of my favorite things about all of Sanderson's books so far are how he like spoon-fed you bits of information. Like Mistborn, it's not like the hardest book to get into. It's not like people talk about this one being one of the most accessible ones. It's not like Way of Kings apparently, which is like very difficult to get. Not very difficult, but he's just like, if you don't know the system, then you're gonna maybe struggle through the book. With this one, if you don't know the system, you're maybe confused for a little bit, and then you kind of get the hang of it. I love that he kind of spoon fed you for a little bit, and then just gives you a little bit more. The pacing of the information that he gives you is really well done here. I think for sometimes in Harry Potter, the pacing is maybe a little bit off. Like there's long sections where not a lot happens. And I love that as a reader, because sometimes I'm like, I just like to be in the world. But Sanderson does a really good job of like, there's not a lot of sections that drag. Every chapter, like there's new bits of information where like, I want to get to the next chapter because I know there's going to be new information there. With the Well of Ascension, I'm curious if from the get-go we're going to have new bits of information, and like if he's going to keep spoon feeding me that, or like what's going to be, how much larger is this world? It has to be significantly larger. Like I'm pumped, because this seems like it's the tip of the iceberg, but I'm curious how he's going to build that out in the next few books. I think that's one of my most excited things of what is going on in the story. It's just a fun world to be a part of. But dang, this is great. Freaking Ellen's dad is an absolute jerk. So glad. I'm sure that he's going to actually be a problem to Ellen, but that's for another day. What if the 11th metal was really an alloy of okay, so this is it. Could it be, hold on, gold? Did I succeed where Kelsier had failed? He knew that the 11th metal was useless. It had done something, true, but it certainly hadn't killed a Lord Ruler. She sat, thinking, trying to figure out what had happened. There had been an odd familiarity about the things in the 11th metal had shown her. Not because of the way the visions had appeared, but because of the way Vin had felt when burning the metal. Gold. The moment when I burned the 11th metal felt like that time when Kelsier had me burn gold. Could it be that the 11th metal wasn't really the 11th metal at all? Gold and adium had always seemed oddly paired to Vin. All of the other metals come in pairs that were similar. A base metal, then its alloy. Each doing opposite things. Iron pulled, steel pushed. Zinc pulled, brass pushed. It made sense. All except for adium and gold. What if the 11th metal was really an alloy of adium or of gold? It would mean that gold and adium aren't paired. The two, they do two different things, similar but different. They're like ... like the other metals, which were grouped into larger bases of 4. There were bronze metals, iron, steel, tin, pewter. The mental metals, bronze, copper, zinc, and brass. And then there were the time-affecting metals, gold and its alloy, adium and its alloy. That means there's another metal, one that hasn't been discovered, probably because adium and gold are too valuable to forge into different alloys. And I want to know. I want to know all about it. I didn't know we've known anything about that, but because gold, the time-affecting metals seem weak to me right now. And I know they're not, and I know that they're not weak. I feel like they have to be the strongest ones. But I just don't know what they do yet, and I'm so curious to figure out more about what they do. Maybe I am just pumped to see more of this metal. What is my note here? Tans. Oh, tons more metals. Oh, arrowheads, she thought in shock. But healed already? How can it be healed? That's when I wrote, there's tons more metals in this. Maybe there's a healing element. Maybe there's like a healing set where, you can have things heal slower, heal faster. I don't know. I feel like maybe even more than 16 metals that you can burn in your stomach. I feel like there's going to be a whole plethora of metals that you can burn. And I'm so excited to figure those out. And again, it's like perfect because we have 11 here, 11 metals. And I have like not a good grasp on them, but I have a good, like people who know this series for sure, they're probably like, you have no idea. You have no grasp on this at all. I feel like I have a good grasp on like 8 of them. I feel like I know and kind of understand what those are. And there is probably more depths to it, but that's really fun right there. Like I feel like I know. With the other ones, the time ones, I don't. And I feel like there has to be other metals out there other than just the time changing elements or time changing metals that there's got to be more out there. The Lord Ruler perked up slightly, turning toward her, leaning forward. You cannot lie to the Lord Ruler, child, Carr said in a quiet, rasping voice. He has lived for centuries and has learned to use allomancy like no mortal man. He can see things in the way your heart beats and can read your emotions in your eyes. He can sense the moment when you lie. He knows. Oh, yes, he knows. My note next to that was, he's Santa. He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. Big note here. Carr remained behind, smiling as he watched the massacre, as did the Inquisitor, who was Vin's captor. One other Inquisitor remained back as well, though Vin didn't know why. My note there says, why? Is he good? Is he Reen? I put Reen in all caps right there. Very excited. I thought that was Reen. Reen's probably dead. 99% sure that he's dead. The Inquisitors say that they killed him. Maybe, they killed someone else. And Reen was loyal to Vin to the end. Beautiful little section. Wasn't a great brother, but did love Vin. Loved that. But wow, what a twist with Marsh. The person that I for sure thought was dead was the person that came back to life. So good. Chapter 37, more confrontations as Zed comes back to help. My brother, Vin said, scrambling to her feet. He sold me out. Sold you out, Carr said. He died promising us that you had starved to death years ago. He screamed it at night and day beneath the hands of the Ministry torturers. It is particularly difficult to hold out against the pains of an Inquisitor's torture. Something you shall soon discover, he smiled. But first, let me show you something. A group of guards dragged a naked, bound figure into the room. Bruised and bleeding, the man stumbled to the stone floor as they pushed him into the cell beside Vin. Zed, cried Vin, rushing to the bars. The terraceman lay groggily as the soldiers tied his hands and feet to a small metal ring set to the stone floor. That was a tragic part. But her brother, that's cool. Love that he stayed true to the end and didn't give up the information, was really trying to protect Vin, really, even though he's not a great brother, but he taught Vin the way of hardship and the way of, getting through life being miserable and tough. And I think I respect that to some extent. And in the Zed section, I was devastated, but then I halfway through this, I'm like, no, this is actually good. So he's going to store something up. And I thought that essentially what was going to happen is she was going to call the metal out of Vin's stomach, but he just swallowed his own, which I thought that was great. He should have swallowed all of them so he can call them up himself in his own body. I was mad that he just swallowed one of them, which was his strength. But great section when they're out. And then all of a sudden they're at their wits' end. They all, Zed's power has run out, and then Ellen comes in the picture. Villette, Ellen asked, stupefied. Vin jumped up and grabbed him in a joyful embrace, hanging on to him tightly and burying her face in his shoulder. You came back, she whispered. You came back, you came back, you came back. Yes, and I see you're a Mistborn. That's rather interesting. You know, it's generally common courtesy to tell one's friends about things like that. Sorry, she mumbled, holding on to him. Yes, well, he said, sounding very distracted. Villette, what happened to your clothes? I like that she's like half naked here, and he's like, whoop, Villette, I'm getting turned on. I love that Ellen came back, though. That little moment between them was really cute. I thought that was great. This is when I thought Sazid was going to betray them. And I wrote in my notes, is Sazid going to betray her? Please, God, no. Not going to tell me not to go, she asked. No, he said quietly. I fear that you are right, mistress. If the Lord Ruler is not defeated, well, I will not stop you. However, I will bid you good luck. I will come to help when I see the young Ellen venture to safety. Vin nodded, smiling at the apprehensive Ellen, then looked up, toward the dark forest waiting above, pulsing with the tired depression. She burned copper, pushing aside the Lord Ruler's soothing. Villette, Ellen said softly. She turned back to him. Don't worry. I think I know how to kill him. Weirdly, I don't know. It seemed like Sazid going away at that moment. Yes, it was like the smart thing to do. Ash ushers him back, but I thought he was going to return. And when he returned, in my head, all the red flags were going up for he's going to betray them. He's going to see this person is actually a terroristman and band with this person, and maybe like not overthrow Vin at that moment. But I thought the book was going to be more of a cliffhanger ending. It kind of is still a cliffhanger ending, but whew, I was sweating with that section. But okay, almost everything had metal in it: water, stone, glass, even human bodies. These metals were too diffused to be affected by allomancy. Indeed, most allomancers couldn't sense them. With his inquisitor eyes, however, Carr could see the outlines or the iron lines of these things. The blue threads were fine, nearly invisible, but they outlined the world for him. The obligator before him were shuffling masses of blue, their emotions, discomfort, anger, and fear, showing in their postures. Discomfort, anger, and fear, so sweet, all three. Carr's smile widened despite his fatigue. That's crazy. That's how they found Vin. That's like, it's like almost like that idea of like when you're blind, like all your other senses are heightened. So maybe that's why purposefully they drive the spikes through your eyes so that your allomantic senses are actually heightened because of it. I feel like I talked about that maybe before in another video, but that was a cool section. And this whole section, they're essentially like, this is like fast marching ahead. Oh, and then oh my gosh. I like, weirdly, I barely have any notes in this chapter because I was like not focused on writing notes at this time. I was just like, this is just so good and so fascinating. But Marsh comes back. So like we find out the Inquisitors, they die by getting that thing taken out of their back, and Kelsier just bypassed that by beheading them, which is like the same thing. Essentially, it does the same thing. They talked about how there's around 20 Inquisitors or something like that in the world, around 20, and Marsh essentially just killed 8 of them, I think. And he has now the Canton of Orthodoxy. He's like in control of certain things. They still need to control the Obligators. There's all sorts of things that we're going to talk about after at the end epilogue, and that's going to happen. And like maybe I'll do like an intermediate between the books. I'll do a book review of this, and then I'll do like let me, theorize on all these things that are happening, and like talk about this. But holy smokes, the whole Rashek reveal, I talked about it before, but the whole Marsh thing, this was my favorite. Like I flipped the page and I read the first. Vin dropped immediately to the ground, grasping for breath. She rolled Peter along with her, allowing her to recover quickly. And then my eyes went from here, and then all of a sudden I darted down here and I see Marsh, and I go, what? Went freaking crazy. I was so pumped. It was like, that was such a cool ending. And it's so cool too, because you think the Inquisitors are these terrible people. Like, you only think in bad terms for what they do and who they are. But like to like bring back some kind of redemptive thing in them, where Marsh, this person who, like, Marsh just has a lot of wisdom, I think. And for him to deceive them that well, and then for him to actually become an Inquisitor himself, is Just a fantastic way to end this story. And it was such a shock for me. Did not see it coming. I did not know how she was going to get across and win this battle. I thought she was going to figure out, honestly, when she charges the 11th metal Phantom and stabs him, I thought that was going to work. I was like, oh, she figured out how to use the 11th metal. When it didn't, I was like, oh crap, what's going to happen? Then my understanding was Sazid was going to get his ringlets back, and then he was going to go charge in there and destroy everything. And then when he destroys everything, my guess was that, because I still thought at this moment, I knew he was a feruchemist. I like knew in my head he was Reshek. I thought he's going to learn that this is Reshek and realize that he can't destroy a fellow feruchemist. He's going to band with him, and they're going to like imprison Vin. That was what was going in my head for this. But I thought that Sazid was going to be the one that rescues them. And it was freaking Marsh. And it was so great. It was like literally the last thing I expected. I didn't even pose a guess at that, because in my head, Marsh was dead. I thought Doxson was going to come. I thought Ham was going to charge through the door with Pewter. And I thought it was going to be like maybe one of those Avengers moments where they all band together and, you know, like defeat the Lord Ruler together. But it had to be Vin. But, so good. So fun. It was just such fun writing. So into it. Gosh. And then this line at the end. He's about to die. The Lord Ruler casts his eyes down at the crowd, and the final realization of his failure seemed to hit him. He looked back up at the ring of people who had defeated him. You don't understand, he wheezed. You don't know what I do for mankind. I was your God, even if you couldn't see it. By killing me, you have doomed yourselves. Oh boy. Vin glanced at Marsh and Sazid. Slowly each of them nodded. The Lord Ruler had begun coughing, and he seemed to be aging even further. Vin leaned on Sazid, her teeth grated against the pain of her broken leg. I bring you a message from a friend of ours, she said quietly. He wanted you to know that he's not dead. He can't be killed. He is hope. And she raised the spear and rammed it directly into the Lord Ruler's heart. And the book ends there. Oh my gosh. Wild stuff. Great ending. The only thing that I wish, not that I wish the last chapter was dragged out more. It was like, it still was well paced, but it was just like, wait, the book ends there? Like, we get the epilogue after, which is like nice because they're having a conversation on this wall, and like, you know, she goes to see Ellen, and like, you know, it's a fun little epilogue. But I was like, whoa, that was like, everything is ramping up to this, and then it just ends. And usually you have like a little bit of a, what is that, like the conclusion, or like the there's like maybe one other chapter or something like that where you have like, oh, like let's, you know, like go see these characters off and see what they're doing next. But you didn't. Vin rams this thing through his heart, and the book ends there, which I kind of love. It's like you're climbing this thing, and then like literally the last line is when the resolution is. You're waiting everything for that last line. And it was good. That's a fun new bit of writing. I like haven't experienced that a lot in books. But then we get the epilogue, which is, you know, is a necessary part. Sorry, my dad just texted me. Okay, Mist reacts to Allomancy. It swirls when an Allomancer uses his abilities nearby. And what did I feel at the end? It was like I drew something from the mists. I don't know what that is. I want to know what that is, but I don't know what that is. There's so many questions I have about that. If I may ask, Master Marsh, Sazid said, who was that corpse Mistress Vin and Master Kelsier discovered at the soothing station? Marsh looked back over the city. There were several corpses, actually. The process to create a new Inquisitor is messy. I'd rather not speak about it. They need blood from a lot of people or something like that. Because they kept saying in that section there was more blood than they knew one human could actually possess or have. And then here, maybe the danger of the deepness was really just the Lord Ruler himself. Perhaps the hero's fight was simply one of coincidence. He had to choose to dominate the world or to let it be free. That didn't sound right to Vin. There was more. She remembered that fear in the Lord Ruler's eyes. Terror. He said do, not did. What I do for mankind. That implies that he was still doing that. Whatever it was. You have doomed yourselves. She shivered in the evening air. The sun was setting, making it easier to see the illuminated keep venture. Ellen's choice of headquarters for the moment, though he might move to the Craddock Shaw. He hadn't decided yet. You should go, mistress, Aziz said. He needs to see that you are well. I don't know what the deepness is, but it has something to do with the ash mounts, has something to do with the fog. Not the fog, the mists. The mist wraiths are going to play a more important role. There's the Kandra, which are mist wraith-like creatures. They're going to play a more important role. They seem like spies, but not just spies, like shapeshifters almost. But I don't know what the heck the deepness is, and I would love to figure that out. I would love to know that. And I'm curious. I mean, no, don't tell me this, obviously, but I'm curious if this book actually lays out hints of what the deepness is. Like, I'm curious when I read through the whole series. When I read back in this, I'm going to be like, oh, the deepness is literally right there. It's described right there. And I just don't see it because I don't know what the deepness is yet. Like, maybe the deepness is the mists or something like that. Or the ash mounts. I don't know. I don't really have any guesses for that. But this is cool because this is just happening in Luthadel. So there's other things happening all over the place. And I feel like all hell is going to break loose right now. I feel like this is going to be like faction war. I feel like there's all these cities that are going to be in this entire empire, and they're all going to vie for power. I don't think it's going to go very smooth. I think the next 2 books are probably going to be about like that vying for power and what really happens. But the titles of them make me think that they're going to be retellings of the past. Like the Well of Ascension, we're going to learn about what happened in the Well of Ascension. I hope the whole book isn't about that because I still want to take time and spend it with like these characters. I love these characters. So I hope it's not all about, the past, but I think a lot of it will be. And the same thing with the Hero of Ages. I think it has to be a lot about the past as well. So I'm curious what's going to happen with that. But the deepness. Maybe it has something to do with the Pits of Hathsin. Maybe there's more to the Pits of Hathsin than anything that we know. Maybe it's the outskirts of everything. Maybe Luthadel is built in the way that it is with the walls in order to keep out the deepness in some way. I don't know what the deepness is, though. I don't know. I can't wait to find out, though. I can't do this. That person would be with him. That's not me. That was an illusion, a dream. I am that child who grew up in the shadows, the girl who shouldn't be alone. I don't deserve this. I don't deserve him. Oh. It was beautiful too because at that moment she's not about to betray him, but she's about to run away. She doesn't feel like she deserves this, and then all of a sudden Kelsier kind of pops back in her mind, and like his death kind of pops back in her mind, and she's like, not that she deserves this, but she's like, Reen didn't run away from me. Like Kelsier didn't abandon me. These people aren't always going to abandon me and leave me. It's a great message for the book too, because if you have trust issues, that's a good book to read. I have trust issues. It's nice that people don't always abandon you and leave you. But goodness gracious, what a great book. What a fantastic book. And I can't wait to get to the next one. Ugh. I have so many questions. And again, other theories that I have, like the basis of it. Well, maybe I'll touch on this in another video and go into more detail about this. But on the basis, I don't know what the deepness is. I have no idea what that is. It has to do something with the ash mounts and something with the mist and something with mist race or something like that. I don't really know what it is, but I don't even have any like legitimate guesses for what it could be. I'll think about that more and kind of come back to you. I think there's way more than just 12 allomantic metals. I feel like there has to be more. That we don't know about. And the whole idea of ferrochemist seems interesting to me too. I feel like there's more to it than we know with that. Even with Sazid and like what keepers are, I think maybe we'll get introduced to more keepers in the next few books. I hope. They seem really interesting. I kind of love keepers. I think I would want to be a keeper. But there has to be something with Ash that's keeping things at bay. I don't know. But to me, there's more than those metals. I hope that we get some of these characters that return in the next few books. I would love that because they're so interesting to me. They're great characters. Ellen, I don't think is going to be the greatest. He's like almost the emperor now. I don't think he's going to be the greatest emperor. I think he's an interesting character. I would have preferred Marsh, but I don't know if an inquisitor can be the emperor. I mean, you could do whatever you want. You could be whoever you want to be. But I love Marsh. I think he's great. The whole idea of the Inquisitors, Allomancy too, is really interesting. It seems like there's something else in that. It seems like no one in this entire series right now, except for the Lord Ruler, knows really all about Allomancy. It seems like everyone is kind of in the dark about something, and they're still learning things. They're still doing research on things. And so that's what I'm most excited about to do with them, is that I'm learning right along with the characters in this book. Like, I am in Vin's position. I only know what Vin knows. And so it's kind of fun to keep going through this book, not knowing and having to figure out. And so I'm pumped to keep figuring things out. And so what I'm going to do is I have to, I get to the joy. I'm reading Lord of the Rings now. And we have another podcast on Lord of the Rings, me and some of my friends that we do. I have to read Fellowship of the Ring, and I'm like doing some like videos on it. That's going to take me another like week to 2 weeks. As soon as I finish that, because I want to finish that because we're starting Two Towers, the podcast on Two Towers. I'm just rereading the Fellowship of the Ring because I listened to it the first time, didn't love it. And that's why I didn't listen to Mistborn. I wanted to I love reading these things more than I do love listening. Although like if I know a story, you're darn right I'm going to go back and re-listen to this. I might re-listen to this in the next week or so. I don't know. Because when I know a story, I can like pick it up. My mind just goes all over the place. But if I know a story, that I can come back at any moment and listen to it and like not be lost. So I love that. But I'm rereading Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, as soon as I finish that, which will take me another week or two because I'm going through it a little slower. As soon as I finish that, then I will jump back into the Well of Ascension. So it's Monday, March 3rd. I'm guessing like March 10th or so. I'll probably start the next series. So I'm pumped to get back into it. I'll probably do a few videos on Mistborn before that. I'm definitely going to do a book review and post that on the channel. And then I'll probably just do like an intermediate, let you know what my thoughts are, more like of an interactive thing. Maybe we'll do, I don't know if I want to do like a live stream where you guys ask questions, but maybe I'll have it on the Discord where you can submit questions and you can get me to talk about certain things. There's a few people on our Discord. I'm not going to say names, but there's like 3 or 4 people who just came into our Discord, and they're like great because they're helping me find like artwork that I don't want to look up on Google. And also those 3 seem like they're great with spoilers. So good with spoilers. So those, maybe we'll start, like we did start another thread on the Discord, but maybe we'll start another one that's like questions you want to ask. And those, you guys can look into those for me and look at those questions and see if any of them are like spoiler ridden, or like maybe ask them in a different way so that I'm like, lead it to believe something or lead it to look out for something. You could throw even like random questions in there that have nothing to do with it, but maybe are red herrings. That'd be kind of fun. Be like, what does the role of, the Krennic Shaw play in this? And like, there's no significance or importance, but like, I'll go on a whole long tangent about that. So maybe we'll plan to do something like that and have a short little discussion about that after. But thanks for watching these videos, guys. It's fun. I'm definitely going to keep doing this. I really love this series. So we're looking at doing live reads in the future, doing all that kind of stuff. So send this to your other Brandon Sanderson friends, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm pumped to keep reading this story. So good. Great book. So into it already. I'm loving this, guys. This is so fun. But I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.